Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. Cool. How are you doing? I hope you're all having a good week. It is me, George, as always, as your host for today's show. I've got to say we're back on IO Radio, not on IO Radio. We are back on IO Radio. Don't worry, we're staying. We're still signed a long-term contract, unlike some managers who won't commit to their futures, which we'll get onto a little bit later on. But I better introduce our co-host and our resident for this week. It is Dan. Dan, how are you doing? It's been a very quiet week, really, for local football, but nationwide football, it has been absolutely busy with fans back.
Yeah, it's great to see fans back, isn't it? I think for me, it's kind of that end of season, like, oh, we've got the rest of the summer. Even though, we've been poor, you still miss it. But yeah, elsewhere, it's been great to see fans back in stadiums, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been lovely. It's been giving me some goosebumps moments, I think we can say. It's really nice, Things are going back to normality. Hopefully, we'll see some fans back at Portman Road in August. Yeah, it's just kick off in August, won't they? Or we might see a few pre-season friendlies, hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Let's hope so. Well, before we move on, what we're talking about today in today's show, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And if you want to listen back to any of our previous shows or see any additional content we do match previews, we do a series called Fans Talk and all that stuff that we do. Don't worry, that's on our YouTube channel at Pitchside Talk. Make sure you subscribe to not miss any other additional content we're doing, because we've got some more videos on the way, hopefully soon. Touch wood. So what is coming up in today's show? We're going to be talking about the FA Cup final that happened on Saturday as Chelsea and Leicester battled out for this year's final. The Premier League action. As we go into the final game week of the season, we've had so much drama. We've had drama in the top four. We've had drama on the South Coast. We've had two managers announce that they're leaving their clubs this season. And we'll be giving you a roundup of all the Ipswich Town news this week, which hasn't been much, but has been quite a lot of rumours of who's going to be coming in. And, well, Dan is very excited. He's absolutely smiling. You can't see it on the radio, but he's absolutely smiling. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about this year's FA Cup final and who won it between Chelsea and Leicester.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on talking about the FA Cup final this week, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, don't worry, they're all up there on the YouTube and the Mixcloud, so you can find them on there. Now, on Saturday, it was the FA Cup final, and we saw 21,000 fans returning back to Wembley. Yes, only 6,000, I think, for each fan group for Chelsea and Leicester, but still 21,000 back in Wembley. What a beautiful moment after they missed last year's final because of the pandemic, and it was behind closed doors. But they were back, and Chelsea were looking to make up for last year's final loss and still searching for that 9th winners' medal. They wanted to make it 9. I think taking them to, I think it was 3rd in the all-time list. I'm not really too sure where they're taking in the list, but they faced a Leicester side who were in their first FA Cup final since 1969, and had never won the FA Cup before. They never won even a winners' medal. They've always been second place, and Leicester triumphed on the day against the odds and won the FA Cup final as Tielemans' wonder goal was the difference on the day. Dan, it wasn't the greatest final. I think we can be perfectly honest here. It wasn't the best final in the world, but fans back gave it that feeling that normality in football is back. But it was filled with a very controversial decision right at the end, I think we can say.
Yeah, it was a bit controversial at the end, if I could actually say that word. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't the best final, was it? I think it was quite fairly in the balance actually throughout most of the game. You couldn't really decide which way it was going to go, because I don't really recall that many chances really throughout the game. It took a a moment of magic from Tielemans. What an absolute brilliant strike. That'll be remembered for ages as a great FA Cup final goal, won't it? So yeah, that's worthy of winning the FA Cup, isn't it? A bit controversial at the end. I wasn't really happy watching it. It's another one of these VAR decisions that, there's an arm offside, and you're just like, he's not using that, is he? He's not using his arm to score. But they're the rules now, aren't they? And he was a little bit offside, so you can't really complain. VAR decided quite quickly, which is a bit of a change. But heartbreak for Chelsea at the end there. But I think a lot of people in football, a lot of neutrals, after what Leicester did in the Premier League, a lot of people have a soft spot for Leicester now. And watching them celebrations, with the fans and the owner, of course, coming on. It must have been an emotional time for him as well, obviously, after what happened a couple of years ago. It was really good to see. So, I'm pleased for Leicester. Obviously for Chelsea, they'll obviously feel that they're hard done by, but overall, I think it was a good end to the season.
Yeah, it felt like the final was very much a chess game, really. I think that was expected coming in. They did say we want a flow game, but these two sides are very tactically minded, and it's going to be very much who makes that first move. And Leicester made that first move, but the VAR decision, it had a hand in the result of the game. The decision ruled out Wes Morgan's own goal in the 87th minute because of a tight offside call as Chilwell. I think he was off by a millimetre. I think, and when we say that, I think we actually do mean a millimetre. It was that tight, but as you said there, once again, VAR has a hand in it. But I think we can say one thing: it was very quick in its decision. I've never seen VAR that quick, but surely, he must have been on. Like surely he must get the advantage here, because he like you said, he ain't going to score with his arm. He's scoring with his feet. So, and I think his feet was onside, but that's just such a heartbreaking moment, really, for Chelsea, that not happening.
Yeah, it is, obviously. And, it's hard to watch when VAR comes in and destroys these moments, because, you can't really celebrate a goal as you used to be able to, can you? So, a massive moment and a heartbreak for Chelsea. I always thought the rule is if your feet are offside, then that's it. But with these new rules coming in, we've seen so many in the last few seasons that don't look offside at all, and there's a finger offside or a sleeve offside, and it's given, and you're just like, this is just ridiculous. I'm happy that it happened quickly, obviously, because we've seen a lot of times where it just takes forever for them to make a decision. They can't really do that. It's an FA Cup final. It's a big decision right at the end of the game. So I'm pleased that they didn't take ages to do that. Otherwise, it would have kind of, ruined the moment even more, I guess. But I feel like it's a bit unfair on Chelsea. I wasn't really happy when I saw it. I think I said to you guys that VAR have won the FA Cup for Leicester. But yeah, it's just heartbreak for Chelsea, and I do feel sorry for them Chelsea fans there celebrating like they did, and then to get their hearts broken like that.
Yeah, I did as well. But I tell you something I really love was the Leicester fans went absolutely crazy. You could tell they went crazy because the camera was shaking. I thought that's what football is. When VAR decisions happen without fans, it's literally just like, oh, okay, and there's nothing, and the game continues. But the fans celebrating, that sort of adds a bit more to it, which was I thought it was quite nice to see. But Leicester, they won the FA Cup, and Brendan Rodgers said in his interview, his side is outstanding work getting this result. For Rodgers, really, he set up his side very well. I think every decision he made was perfectly timed, apart from really Johnny Evans. He only played about 32 minutes, came off Wes Morgan, but he did a very good job in his replacement. But, the fairy tale really does continue for Leicester. And, he said about the ownership, it was such an emotional moment, the owner's son coming on after what happened with his father a few years ago in the tragic helicopter crash outside the ground. But it felt such a heartwarming moment. And it felt like the story's continuing. But this feels more deserved than the Premier League. The Premier League, that was like a fluke. But this here feels like they really earned it and they really went for it. but this could be the start of something truly special here. And, and with, Rodgers getting that squad ready, the players are really coming to form. Leicester have been really undermining the Big Six. They want to invade the Big Six clubs. They want to be part of that group. And it feels like more victorious times are on their way. And with him at the helm, anything's possible, really. Another Premier League, we could be saying.
Yeah, well, you never know, do you?
No.
But yeah, I think, the fact is how they've risen in the last, they weren't in League One not 10 years ago.
10 years ago. They were in the Championship in 2014, weren't they?
Yeah. I think they won it I think they won the Championship in 2014. Just survived the season after under Nigel Pearson. And then won the league after that. It's such a fairy tale story. And the way they've risen as a club has been absolutely fantastic to watch. And yeah, I think this is only going to be a continuation of that. I think, I guess them winning the FA Cup, I know it looks like they're going to, drop off of Champions League football this year, but I don't think that they'll mind too much because, winning the FA Cup for them is absolutely huge. And it just underlines the fact, I think, that this club is, I wouldn't say a sleeping giant because, they're kind of in and around that top four area now. But I think just the way they've managed to do what they've done, win the Premier League and the FA Cup, it's just absolutely amazing. And I think every club every club in the Championship and League One should really want to be that type of club. To survive by the skin of your teeth, the season before you've won the league it's just a massive turnaround that I think everyone fell in love with, really, didn't they? That season 15-16. And now to win the FA Cup, it's, they're fans. They've seen so much in the last 5 years. And I'm sure that they, with the squad that they have and the owners and the manager that they have, I think they can only look up for seasons to come. We'll have to wait and see. Next season, I think, they'll be aiming for top four again next season. Let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I think also as well with sort of the controversy happening with the Super League and that, it's so nice to see the ownership really in touch with the fans. It just highlights how important the fans are and how the ownership is so connected to the community of Leicester, really. And, with all what's going on with the Big Six clubs and the owners not being in touch with them, I think it's really, truly special to see. But for Chelsea, heartbreak once again. They really had a bad week, losing to Arsenal in the league, which did put pressure on their top four hopes, but we'll get onto that a little bit later on as things have changed and they're suffering that disappointment in the FA Cup final. Tuchel said on Friday he was in angry mode. I think definitely on the touchline, he looked angry. He didn't look happy at all. Things didn't go away. And then his players were made to watch Leicester lift the FA Cup in respect, as he said in his interview. But I think that was more of a fact of you don't want to be in the situation again. So don't make sure you ain't going to be in the situation. But with some big weeks coming up for Chelsea, they've still got a Champions League final happening at the end of this month in May. Losing their first final here, they need to really turn around here because they don't want to be in that same position again, watching Man City lift the Champions League trophy in front of their faces and losing by a goal. Like Tuchel, that ain't going to be acceptable really for Chelsea in the first season because they've made it to two finals and walking over with 0 trophies isn't going to be acceptable at all.
No, I don't think it is at all. I don't think they really did enough in the FA Cup final. As we said, it was kind of in the balance, but they still really didn't do enough. They showed at some points. I think they're attacking threat. They're dangerous on the attack. Maybe if Werner would actually, finish easy chances, then maybe they'll be in a better position. But I think they weren't they weren't exactly unlucky, but I still don't think they did enough in this FA Cup final. So I think it does actually put pressure on the Champions League final. It really does. I think that's going to be in their minds, isn't it? That crumbling under pressure is maybe a problem. But I think they just need to, after this FA Cup final loss, they need to just, well, I guess they've already done it in the league, but they need to just forget about it, move on and bounce back. It's a tough game against Man City in the Champions League final. But I think Tuchel and Chelsea have enough to do it. I think it's going to be a close game, the final. But I think if Chelsea can just, bounce back and play like they have been in the league up until, I guess, that Arsenal defeat, really. Maybe that affected them a little bit going into the final. I don't know. But I think if they can just keep up, the good job that Tuchel had done when he came in, I think they'll have a chance. But obviously coming up against Man City is going to be a tough ask. But I can't wait for that game. I think it's going to be a really good game in that Champions League final. I say that might be one of these games that we go into it and it'll just be be a boring 0-0. I do look forward to it. But yeah, I think if Chelsea, can't lift the trophy at the end of it, it'll be massively disappointing. And as you said, I don't think it'll be really acceptable. I don't think the fans will really be happy with it. I guess finishing the top four was the aim for Chelsea this year. It looks like they're going to be able to do that. But to not get a trophy at the end of it, it's not really good enough, is it?
No, it'd be very bitterly disappointed for Chelsea after last year's FA Cup final as well, losing that. But finally, this final will always be remembered for the return of fans, 21,000 back in the stadium. It made Wembley sound like it's at full capacity with 90,000 in. No added crowd noise needed in sight. All the failures turned down to zero. Get rid of that soundboard. We don't need that ever again. But Dan, having fans back in was just such a goosebump moment, really, because we've not had that many fans back in a stadium in a long while. We've had the 4,000 and we had the 2,000 back in December, which was had a little effect on the games, but not much. But having this amount of fans back in shows that we're getting back to normality now. And, this plays such a big part in the game, really, because, Leicester fans, Leicester really need the boost there, and Chelsea as well.
Yeah, I think we sometimes underestimate the effect fans have at football games, and it's such a good thing to see. And even the little things, I was like, I can't believe I'm hearing this again. Like when Werner skied it, and all the Leicester fans were like, "Hey!" I was like, "Oh, it's been so long since we've heard that." And I think in the Leicester goal, seeing all them Leicester fans going crazy at their end, it was as you said, a goosebumps moment. It was so good to see. And yeah, it just seems like we're starting to get back to normal again with full stadiums, which I absolutely cannot wait for, because people have said it before, but fans are what make football, and without it, it's not the same, is it? It just really isn't the same. So I think having fans back is gonna be a massive effect on clubs, and I think clubs in the lower leagues as well. I think it'll be good for them financially again. It will save some of these clubs to have fans back. I think next season is a massive season for the National League clubs and the low end League 2 clubs as well. To have fans back in stadiums would be great for them. But I think just having with football in general, I think just having fans back makes such a difference. And I think after a while, with fans not being in there, sometimes it got a bit draggy, didn't it, this season? It kind of dragged on a little bit. But now I think we're all excited again for football to be back properly. It's going to be a great next season.
Yes, next season is going to be absolutely fantastic. And don't worry, we'll cover next season for you when it actually does start back in August. Well then, that's the FA Cup final all rounded up. And when we come back, we'll be talking about the Premier League. We have a battle for top four heating up. We have a battle on the South Coast. And we have two managers managing the last home games this season, their current clubs. So we'll talk about that right after this.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan as always. And now, before we move on talking about the Premier League this midweek, yes, we've had midweek games not weekend, midweek. I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any improved shows or even this one, if you missed anything from today's show, don't worry. 6 p.m. at Fridays, you can listen back to anything you missed in today's show. So if you missed us talk about the FA Cup final that happened on Saturday, where, spoiler alert, Leicester won it. Don't worry, it'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. on YouTube and the Mixcloud. And now, the Premier League was back this week with games happening on the weekend and the midweek, but we're going to be talking about the midweek because the weekend games have now been really, since what's happened in the midweek, all the weekend games have now come irrelevant. And up to 10,000 fans were returning back to stadiums. It all varied at different clubs. Some, I think Man U had 10,000, Brighton had 7,500, Burnley had 3,500, which was a little bit odd, but ho-hum, they had that many. Quite surprised they found that many. Oh, that's a horrible burn to Burnley fans. Sorry, happy place, turf. We turned back to stadiums, which saw some fabulous games this midweek. And here are your results. So Manchester United, they got a 1-1 draw against Fulham. Leeds won 2-0 away to Southampton. Brighton won 3-2 against Manchester City. What? And Chelsea won 2-1 against Leicester, a massive boost in their top four fight. Everton, they won 1-0 against Wolves. Newcastle got a 1-0 victory over Sheffield United. Tottenham lost 2-1 to Aston Villa. Possibly Harry Kane's final game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll have to find out, but it didn't look too great. It looked very emotional when he was doing his lap of honour. Crystal Palace, they lost 3-1 to Arsenal, Roy Hodgson's last home game of the season. Burnley, they lost 3-0 to Liverpool. And West Brom lost 3-1 to West Ham. And starting off with this top four race, it took another twist in the race as Chelsea beat Leicester, giving in the league after a few days after that FA Cup loss, giving Chelsea that major needed boost they needed in their Champions League hopes for the season. Now leaving Leicester in major danger of missing out on the top four this season for the second time in 2 seasons. And now Liverpool occupy that fourth spot, the last spot in the Champions League. As they won 3-0 against Burnley, now mean they're ahead of Leicester by just 4 goal difference. So tied on points to 66. Chelsea are 1 away with 67. Whew, Dan, 1 game to go, and it all could change really. You know, Chelsea, they're away to Aston Villa. They're on 67. Chelsea still need to win their game to guarantee they've got top 4. Liverpool are home to Crystal Palace. They need a win to guarantee they're going to be in top 4. Leicester need a win against Tottenham to hope they can get back into the top 4. I'm sorry. Leicester need a win against Tottenham. I think I said Leicester need to beat Leicester, but Leicester need to beat Tottenham to get a win. And also, if Liverpool are winning, they need to outscore them by 5 goals. So, this could all change. But what drama we have here!
Yeah, it's good to see as well, isn't it? It go to the final day. We've had so much drama on final days before. It's really good to see. Obviously, it's really 3 teams gunning for it. I think Liverpool have probably got the best fixture out of the 3 at home to Crystal Palace. Yeah. You'd think they'll be able to win that, and that'll secure them top 4, which is, I think that's quite a big surprise actually. That they're looking like, probably the favourites going into the top 4 at the end of the day on Sunday. I think to get top 4 after the season they've had is a big surprise for them. I think Chelsea, they're away at Villa, tough game to go there. Obviously, Tottenham had trouble against them. I think if Chelsea can't get top 4 this year, then they're relying on the Champions League final after that. If they can't get top 4 and they lose the Champions League final, that'd be a big failure, won't it? So they'll want to get that win at Villa, which I think they'd be favourites to do. But can't write off Villa because they've got a decent team in this league. I think the game that I'd be wanting to watch now is Leicester Tottenham. I think that's the really interesting one. Obviously, I think. Can Tottenham overtake West Ham? I think they can, can't they?
I think they can, yes.
Yeah. So I think if Tottenham can, I don't know who West Ham actually play. They got Southampton, maybe, I think.
You're asking too many questions. Let me have a look. You keep talking.
Yeah. This is what kind of happens at the end of the season, doesn't it? You got to look elsewhere. But yeah, so Tottenham can finish top 6.
Yes, West Ham are at home to Southampton.
Yeah, okay. But I think Leicester coming off the final, and I think they'll be up for it, and that'll be a really good game against Tottenham. And if they can win that, then it'll be if they win that game, they'll just be relying on Chelsea and Liverpool, won't they? Because I think, well, obviously, if Leicester win, that doesn't confirm them top four, does it?
No.
So they're probably in the worst position out of the three teams. But yeah, it's big drama at the end, and really good to see. Let's hope it provides drama, because that's what we love to see, isn't it?
Yes, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question here. Who's going to be in the top four this season? Because Chelsea, they're away to Aston Villa, but they won't have that home advantage like they did against Leicester on Tuesday night. Liverpool, they are home to Crystal Palace. Roy Hodgson's going to be his last game. Liverpool, I think, have got 23 points from the last 7 games. At one point, they were 10 points off the top 4. What a comeback for them. But for Leicester as well, they're home to Tottenham. They've just come off that loss to Aston Villa. They're going to have the home advantage, but they've got everything to do on their end. They're relying on results at other grounds going their way, or they have to basically outscore Liverpool and hope Liverpool don't score too many against Crystal Palace. But they did beat Crystal Palace 7-0 at Sellers Park earlier on in the season. So it's going to be tight.
It is going to be tight, and as always, it's tough to predict. And I don't like doing predictions because they're always wrong. But no, I can see a situation where all three teams win. I think that's quite a possible thing to happen. It's so hard to predict, and I'm sorry to Leicester in this, but I'm going to say it's going to stay as it is. I'm going to say it's going to be Chelsea and Liverpool. I think Leicester will be okay with 5th as they won the FA Cup. I think their fans seem to be okay with that. I guess it will be disappointing for them to miss out because they've been in it for so long. They've been in it pretty much all season, and it'll be the second season in a row that they've done this, isn't it? So, that's my prediction. It'll probably be completely wrong come the end of Sunday, but I'm going to go with that.
Well, funny enough, this week was the first time Leicester have actually ever dropped out the top 4 this whole season. Probably the worst time to actually drop out the top 4. We'll have to wait and see. But on Tuesday, we had a very thrilling match that happened on the South Coast, a battle between Brighton and Man City. And Brighton came back from 2-0 down to beat 10-man Man City in front of the 7,495 fans that were there. Brighton's first ever Premier League victory over Man City. Their first ever home victory, I think, against them for 30 or 40 years. I can't remember specifically what they said on the TV, what the specific years was, but what a match. After the match, Graham Potter has apologized for his actions during the game. He upset Pep Guardiola. They had a little bit of a clash at the end. Also, the bench clash as well. But Dan, this game was filled with drama on and off the pitch, goals galore, and fans back. And I think the fans had a big part to play in this, because once Brighton scored that goal from Trossard, the game started to turn, and the fans were starting to get on their side, and Man City just scrambled.
Yeah, that's the big thing that fans bring, isn't it? If a team are behind and get a goal back, it's everything to play for again. And I think fans, they bring that extra voice to try and they kind of shout the ball into the net sometimes, don't they? So yeah, to have this game, this is one of the games why we love the Premier League. And to have this game in the first game with fans back at the Amex is, massive for them, isn't it? What a game for your first one back. I think after it went 2-0, I know Man City were down to 10 men, but you would have thought that was over, wouldn't you? Man City winning 2-0 at Brighton, but the fight that they had, the fight that Brighton brought back is just fantastic. And I think they haven't had the most comfortable season. Brighton, they were in I guess contention for relegation for quite a while before Christmas, I think. But they did really well to kind of get away from the bottom 3, and I think their fans will be happy with the season they had. And on the penultimate game to get that result against Man City, I think they'll be happy with that as well.
Nice. Well, also on Wednesday, we had the last home games for 2 managers this season. Firstly, Roy Hodgson, his 4-year spell at Crystal Palace is coming to an end as he is stepping down from the job at the end of the season and possibly from football. A 45-year career in management. Wow. That is bad respect to Roy, oldest manager ever in Premier League history. Ridiculous. And also Sam Allardyce, he is leaving West Brom at the end of the season after, well, he suffered his first ever Premier League relegation as manager, with Big Sam saying, West Brom has made me a generous offer to stay at the Hawthorns that shows the commitment for an ambitious club. After serious considerations, I have decided not to accept the offer. If I wanted to stay and achieve promotion next season, which I would expect, well, my God, I can't speak. The expectation would be for that for me to continue at least another season after that. Sadly, I'm not committed to that. I feel unable to make that decision at this current stage of my career. Dan, Roy Hodgson, such a legendary and well-loved manager, I think, across the whole of football. You know, his experience with, I think, in every, continent of Europe, he is managing, very much loved. He's going to be very much missed next season at Crystal Palace. Really a Crystal Palace boy, really. Born in Croydon, grown up in Croydon. Crystal Palace is his closest club. He supported them as a youngster. So for him, really sort of returning home, but leaving that. But he's done such a great job since taking part of that, stabilised the club when they had Frank de Boer, and it was 4 games lost on the bounce. They were on 0 points, took over, got into 11th, 12th, 14th, and currently moment a 13th finish. So very much consistency there. But for West Brom, a big shame not be able to sign Sam Allardyce up for another season. He will not commit to a long-term future with the club, especially with his experience in the Championship. That would have been key for them bouncing back. But Big Sam really sort of saying there is he's only really looking at short-term and possibly taking over clubs that need sort of help in the relegation battle, really. He's not wanting to commit to anything. He's very much short-term now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does seem like that, doesn't it? Obviously, I think that's disappointing news for West Brom, because I think he would have been a really good manager in the Championship. Whether he doesn't want to manage in the Championship, I don't know. But, I think, I don't know. I just think it was inevitable, really, wasn't it? I think we were all expecting this to happen. It'll be interesting who they decide to bring in as replacement. Well, they'll go for another experienced manager. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think West Brom will miss him. I think it was just too much of it was too big of a job to keep West Brom up in the position that he took over. I think. I don't think their squad was good enough. I think I've said this before on the show that their squad isn't good enough. I think I looked at their defence, in their game against West Ham, and I thought that's just a Championship. It just looks like a Championship defence, and I was like, not sure about that. So I think, he had a tough time, but I think, for him to go just before another Championship season will be quite disappointing for West Brom. But I think if they can get the right man in again for next season, I think they'll be fine. I think they have a good enough squad to come back up. So I think they just need to get the replacement right. And obviously for Roy as well, I think he's done a really good job at Crystal Palace. As you said, he's been consistent. You say that Crystal Palace are a mid-table Premier League side, and they've been achieving that for the last, he's done 4 seasons, has he now?
4 seasons,
yeah. So, he's been consistent there and done a really good job. As you said, he remembered for great times. He will always be remembered for that, the Europa League run with Fulham.
England.
I guess that wasn't
no,
that wasn't for the same reasons. But obviously you'll know more about him as a Liverpool fan as well. But yeah, I think, he's been a figure that's been around English football for so long, and as you said, he's been, in other countries as well. He's had influence in Sweden, I think, as well. I think he managed. Did he manage UAE or something at one point?
Yes.
The national team, which was a bit interesting. I think that was quite a long time ago, though. But yeah, he's had experience everywhere, hasn't he? And I think he's been a stable figure in English football as well. So I think it'll be sad for him to go, and I think especially for Crystal Palace fans as well. As you said, he's kind of one of their own, and he's done a really good job. And I think, as like West Brom, I think it's crucial for Crystal Palace to to pick the right man. I think Frank Lampard would probably be the right man for that job. We'll have to wait and see if that happens. But I think the next appointment for them is quite crucial.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. But I think, like you said, it will be a crucial appointment really for both clubs. Really for West Brom, they're looking to bounce back into the Premier League. Nobody has been rumoured just yet, but there is a few managers about. And for Palace, well, big point for them because they've got, I think, 10 players out of contract. A lot of them look like they're going to get renewed. A lot of them in the late 30s, mid 30s as well. So this is going to be a lot of change at Palace as well and with Zaha as well. So whoever takes the job has got a lot of responsibilities and a big shoes to fill with Roy Hodgson there. But that's everything for your Premier League action this week. And when we come back, we're going to be doing a very quick roundup about Ipswich Town this week to see what's been going on at the club.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on talking about Ipswich Town this week, I better mention the social medias. If not, I'll forget. And it won't look very good on me. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube, it's got up over at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our pro shows, or even this one, if you missed anything from today's show, don't worry. 6 p.m. at Fridays on our YouTube Mix Club. They'll both be out. If you missed us talk about the Premier League, what's happening in the Premier League this midweek, and the FA Cup final. Spoiler alert, Leicester won the FA Cup final. But I think everybody knows that by now. Well, I hope so. I hope everybody knows that by now. If not, I've ruined your day. Sorry, Chelsea fans. But yeah, don't worry, that'll be at 6 p.m. on Fridays. And now Ipswich Town this week. Well, after last week's mass exodus of Ipswich Town players and staff, this week has rather been quite quiet. Yes, but the rumour mill has definitely kicked into motion this week with 2 players being rumoured to join Ipswich Town this summer window. So let's start off with the first rumoured player in Sonny Bradley from Luton Town. According to reports, Ipswich Town are leading the race to get his signature. So the next question is, who is he? Who is Sonny Bradley? Well, he's a 29-year-old defender from Luton Town, 6'5" in height. Also has been a very key player for Luton Town in his 3-year spell, helping them get up from League One to Championship, helping them survive in the Championship in the first season in 19th, and helping them get up to 12th place in the season after that. He's out of contract this summer, so looks pretty good, and his stats are very good as well. 37 appearances and 12 clean sheets, and also he is the captain of Luton Town as well. Dan, what are your thoughts on Sonny Bradley? You know, on paper, looks like to be the perfect candidate here. You know, he's got experience with promotion. He's played in this league. He's played 179 times in the League One in his career. Ipswich need a new club captain after Luke Chambers' departure. Only 2 senior centre-backs at the moment at the club in Wolfden and Tote Nsiala. Coming in on a free. He ticks all the boxes nicely. Go for him, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if this happens, I'm just like, wow, what a deal! You know, to get a player like that who, you know, has been a massive part of the last 2 seasons Luton have had in the Championship. They stayed up last year, I think, right at the end, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then managed to, I think, did they finish 11th this year? Maybe
12th.
12th. So to finish 12th in the Championship, you know, to be, you know, linked with a player like that, and, you know, from what I've seen, Phil Ham on TWTD, who's quite respected journalist, said this deal's probably done. So, you know, to have a player like that, to attract him to come down a league into League One, who's had, you know, championship experience, you know, a leader, probably will be our new captain if he comes in. And on a free as well, it's an absolutely fantastic deal. I'm absolutely buzzing about it. I think he's the perfect player we need to come in to, you know, as a captain. I think it would be a fantastic signing. I think Luton fans, they don't think that it's going to happen. They were like, there's no way this is going to happen, but, you know, it looks like it is. And I think the fact that we're linked with a player like this and look like we're going to sign a player like this shows Paul Cook's intent for this season, doesn't it? It really does. You know, we've been linked with other Championship players in the last few weeks. So I think it really shows the intent Paul Cook has for this season and what the owners feel are, you know, realistic signings, which, you know, I was not expecting, you know, this much Championship links, really. I was expecting top League One players, but to have players like that look like they're going to sign for the club, it's a good start to next season. It really is. My hopes are getting high. They always do at this point for the next season, but they really are high at this point. But yeah, I think Sonny Bradley will be a fantastic signing.
Yes, I think it would be as well. Everything on paper points in the direction. Everything Town needs. He's the perfect candidate. He's on a free. Get him in before other clubs are, because I think other clubs are sniffing around him as well. I think Championship clubs are looking at him as well. So
Preston are as well.
Yeah, that'd be a big win if they can get that. Well, up next, it's Town are keeping an eye on a young Sheffield Wednesday player called Alex Hunt, a 20-year-old midfielder who's out of contract this summer, but does have a 12-month contract extension, which could still be activated. Has not been activated just yet, but still could be. Dan, an interesting player here, Town are keeping an eye on here. Also, Charlton, they're keeping an eye on him as well. He's only played 5 times for Sheffield Wednesday this season. They got relegated from the Championship, but in January, apparently there was a big push for him to go out on loan to a League One club, which did not materialise in the end. But an interesting player, Town are keeping an eye on here. Could be an interesting signing if they get him, and also could be very much a rough diamond. He could be a little gem, and he's only 20. He's still got plenty of time to go. That sounds bad, but he's only just come into the game, and that could be a very good signing. So should Town be oh my God, superior? Oh, I can't say it. Getting his signature. There we go. I'm going to say that.
Yeah. Well, you never know, do you? He could be a gem in the end. I don't really know much about him. He obviously has decent potential. He's played 5 games for Sheffield Wednesday this season, so he's in and around the first team in the Championship. So I know they've had a pretty poor season by their standards, but I think it's worth a shout. I think it shows that we're not just looking at experienced players. We're really looking to bring a lot of new players into this squad now to try and revamp it. But yeah, I think if Sheffield Wednesday don't get that year extension, then I think it could be worth it. A young player who has played in the Championship now at the start of his career could definitely be worth a shout. So I don't really know much about him. I know he's a centre midfielder. That's probably about it. But let's see if it happens. I know it's just rumours at the moment, but let's see if it happens because it could be interesting.
I love this. I love your honesty.
Yeah.
I don't think many Town fans know too much about him. He hasn't played too much for Sheffield Wednesday, but we don't know. He could be a little find, and under Paul Cook, he'll be able to nurture him into his own player. So that'd be good, quite interesting. And that is basically everything for Ipswich Town this week. Nothing else is actually.
No arguments.
No, I was actually quite shocked there was no arguments, but I've just seen some interesting news come through. Gillian McKean on signing several Ipswich Town players, including Luke Chambers. So maybe Colchester isn't happening. I know Alan Judge has been linked with a move to there as well. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. And when we come back, I think we're just going to have a little bit of time here, a little bit of extra time for a football roundup.
Pitchside talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, Georgia, and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on, doing a very quick football roundup this week, I better mention his social medias. Twitter, it's at Pitchside Talk. Instagram, it's @talk_pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any improved shows or in this one, don't worry, 6 p.m. at Fridays. It will be up in a few minutes' time. And now, the football roundup this week. Hooray, we've got just a little bit of time for it. And I'm going to start off with the news this week. And I've got some very good news for us. So, Cardiff defender Sol Bamba, back in January, was diagnosed with cancer. And today he has announced that he is cancer-free. 4 months after it was announced, he is now cancer-free. He came on, I think, in the last few seconds against Rotherham on the final day of the season's first appearance since the 16th of December on the 8th of May. He's back. He's cancer-free, which is fantastic to hear because He's a fantastic player, and I think I quite enjoyed him when he was in the Premier League. He was a happy player, and all this. It was brilliant to see. But it's good to see. It's some great news today. We have not had great news in the whole time, and that's good for him as well. Dan, you've got some news for us as well, I hear, this week.
Yes, obviously more Ipswich news. We said there wasn't much, but there's a bit more. We mentioned it a little bit in the Ipswich section, but obviously we heard a few days ago that Alan Judge is being linked with Gillingham. Obviously, a former player of ours, left at the end of this season. Looks like he's getting linked with Gillingham, but also Luke Chambers, our former captain, looks like he's going to Gillingham. Obviously. Or getting linked with Gillingham at least. Obviously, he's been linked with Colchester. I think a lot of our players have been linked to Colchester. But obviously, these players are going to have a lot of options come this summer, whether it be in League One or League Two. I think Gillingham will be a good shout for them because it's not too far away, is it? It's probably about an hour and a half away from Ipswich, so they don't really need to move, I don't think. So, yeah, good option for them, I think. Oh, and you mentioned Ollie Hawkins as well as linked with Gillingham as well. Forgot about Ollie Hawkins. Wouldn't be too upset about that. Sorry if you're listening.
I'm sure he isn't. That's everything for a football roundup this week. And we're at the end of the show. We've only got a few seconds left, but we're at the end of the show. Dan, I want to thank you very much for being on the show this week. I guess you'll be joining me next week. We'll be definitely talking about the Premier League. We'll find out who's going to be in that top four race. Look back at the Premier League season, and we'll know who will be in the playoff final, won't we, next week? Is next week the game's happening?
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll find out who's going to be in the playoff final that's going to get in that final place for the Premier League next season. Hopefully it'll be somebody new and interesting, not a team that has been relegated this last season and could bounce back up straight away. Sorry, Bournemouth fans, I am relating to you over there. But yeah, so what we've got coming after us, we've got the Gap Show 6 until 7, the Roo Show 7 to 9, and Flip Switch 9 until 10. So I've been George, he's been Dan. We'll see you next week, and ciao.
Yeah.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.